I've been working on some thumbnails for the challenge. I know the finals need to be clean pencil lines, but I'm just using this method to produce ideas. Any thoughts so far? Looking great. Great silhouettes. I think that they're all a little bit long. They look like MMORPG characters. What I really love in MMORPGs or anything, any game, is when they explore different silhouettes. So have you ever seen the side by side of all the League of Legends champions, or all the World of Warcraft champions? They have like fat, short, square, triangular, straight line. So beware of this constantly straight, slim, 110 pounds, 5'8" kind of feeling. All right. Okay, so that's what I want you to do, Antares. So explore different silhouettes. So start with a lasso, a really randomized lasso. If you're thinking bulky, big shot character, you have to explore different body types. So remember, write that down. Body types are important in character design. Character design, they have um, uh, roles. They have different people expect different things from every single character. Some of them are designed for heavy lifting and carrying really heavy weapons. So how are some of these guys supposed to be carrying a big bruiser weapon like this one if they don't have the upper body strength for it? So that's the biggest mistake when we try to couple all kinds of different varieties of weapons and we don't realize all these different varieties of weapons come with different body types. All right? So I'm just going to turn off that um, AC. So any major questions about the challenge? So let me give you a big brief or debrief about the challenge, a quick debrief. So it's called the Adventure Fellowship. It's a character design challenge, very similar in format to the previous challenge this month, which basically means white background, pencil, clean pencil work, just like the Witch's Hovel. The challenge is a side-by-side character lineup of the Adventure Fellowship. Descriptions and information on the characters available in the resource pack linked below, which is available on my community. So go to the istebrak.com community, available on my website on the community. It's on my community. You go here, you click this, and you'll go to Dropbox, and you'll be able to download the full resource pack I have designed for you. It includes all kinds of information, the description of every single member of the five-member fellowship. Yes, it is inspired by Lord of the Rings. Of course it is. Everything I do is. And this challenge is designed to encourage the content and research for costume, weapon, and gesture design. So it's not about creating the illusion of detail. It's about going in and actually drawing every single little nook and cranny of every single object on the character. So that next time when we go into full render, we know what we're drawing. We're not just throwing random shit and hoping that it reads. We know how to couple props together. We know how to combine props together on the stage, the mise en scène. Alright, so when you have completed your submission, please post it in this community under the themes submission category. It has to be uploaded under themes. It makes it very easy for me to go through every single one. If you have any questions, please comment on this post only. Don't post your own questions up here. Just comment right here with your questions. And please stay in dialogue with me. Stay in conversation with me. If you guys need a clarification on a specific role, what that role does, if you guys want to post roughs, you have to post them together. Don't post sketch by sketch, by the way. You know that's not allowed in this community. But post your roughs, ask questions, but please make sure that you're posting your questions if they're single questions. Post them over here on this. Okay, I kind of have a tiny little cold. And the challenge is a side-by-side character lineup of the Adventure Fellowship. Descriptions are available in the thing, in the PDF available in the resource pack. You must design fully sketched, clean characters without the use of shading or rendering, using a thin pencil brush. Think clean for the format. So the pencil brush that I used for the ones that I posted with it. So I posted a bunch of my own. Whoops. I posted a bunch of my own sketches with it that I've been doing, and I made these sketches on purpose just so that you guys can have a guideline. So I kind of separated the shaman and the healer, but they're supposed to be one person. This is before I refine the challenge. Shaman and healer are kind of the same thing. But here's another example of what I mean by pencil sketching. Alright, so you can do it traditionally, and don't worry about the white paper that you might draw on traditionally because it's not going to read as white once you scan it. If it's a pure white after you scan it, try to use a darkened layer to bring that white back down. And any questions so far? Wow, you are really right about they're all similar body types. I will try some more variety on the silhouettes. Thank you. You're very welcome. I suck at drawing bodies. I wonder how I'll do here. Daisy, the biggest thing about drawing bodies is making sure that you're measuring 8 heads in length. So no matter what kind of body you're drawing, even if it's a short guy, the width of his head, the length of his head should fit 8 times in his body. His head might be very wide and narrow, like very wide, not narrow, but very short. But it has to fit in eight times. That's really the guideline. Once you know, if you go a little bit shorter than that or a bit longer than that, that's fine. But really, it's just about making sure that you measure that in. What I do is as you guys have, if you've ever seen my sketching or live, what I do is so maybe I can show you guys some of the secret Patreon videos, and I can show you real quick what I do. So I'm not going to show you the full Patreon video. I'm just going to show you the... Oh, wait, you guys can probably see that. Never mind. You probably got the link right there. Um, Damn it. Whatever. But basically in the video, what I show you is I draw with really, really rough scribbles early on. If you've ever been there watching me draw live, they're really dirty, really messy. I throw a bunch of lines, experimenting with size and scale, and that's what I want you guys to do. Don't go in clean, go in dirty, and then clean up the lines later on a new layer. Don't try to clean up the dirty layer. Leave the dirty layer, discard it once you're done with it. Lower the opacity all the way down to like 20%, and then sketch on top. Um, yes, it definitely is a challenge. So just because this challenge is difficult or it's something you've never tried, this is exactly why you should participate, because you've never done this before. And not having ever drawn a full body is a dangerous thing for your portfolio. So please remember that you're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be fun and different and new. You have a community here to back you up. We're all holding your hand. So just don't be scared. Go in feet first and try this challenge. I think you're going to surprise yourself. I think you're going to surprise yourself with how much you're capable of doing. Give your visual library a test. Do you want to see our dirt? Yes, I want to see your dirty laundry. Uh, yeah, it is the standard height. I mean, our rough sketches. Yes, I do want to see your dirt. Yes, I do. I want to see you guys post your rough sketches, but try to post them side by side. Try to do a completed. Don't post one rough sketch after another and flood the wall. We have 2,000 members now, so it's going to be really, really flooded. So post your rough sketches, please. I'd love to give you. I love this. I love that Antares did this. But I'd love to see that you guys are uh, showing off and really, really staying in dialogue. That's really the big thing, is just stay in a conversation. Keep it constant. Keep everyone aware of your process. Update everybody. Keep yourself accountable, because that's the best way to succeed in this challenge, is to just stay in dialogue constantly. Can someone in the comments very quickly explain how is this critique works? How this critique works? So people post. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. It's Russian, but people post here on Istebrak's art class and critique community. I need to take my name out. It's so much ego. But everyone posts their work here. I choose from them. I take it on my Photoshop, and I critique them, which is what I'm going to do in a second. But yeah, that's pretty much the format here. After I'm done, I upload it on YouTube, and you guys can rewatch it again on YouTube. And I try to cover as many lessons as possible. Let me see if I can refresh this quickly. So the due date is September 29th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So the end of September. And a quick tiny announcement, the challenge following this one will be a horror themed creature design challenge for the month of October. Not really horror themed. I don't know why I chose that word. I think I was really tired. But the challenge is basically going to be like drawing a creature design. It doesn't have to be evil creature. It just has to be a Halloween themed creature. You are not allowed to use Halloween props though. So you can't just draw a pumpkin head. But you are supposed to draw like ghouls and darkness and creatures of the dark. I'll give you more examples, and I'll upload a resource pack at the end of the month. But for the month of October, and I hope to provide you guys with bigger rewards this time. The reward for this one is the same as last one. It's just a nice brush set for you guys if you upload good notes after the critique hour is done on the 29th. And I'll probably try to add some more stuff in there. I am thinking about buying one of you guys a tablet. Some of you really don't have one, or some of you have a broken one. And there's a tablet that I recommend to all my students. This is the basic Intuos. It's the new one. It's what used to be the Bamboo. It's got no buttons. It's a basic tablet, medium size. It's a really good price as well. And I'm hoping that sometime this year we run a challenge where I actually give one of you guys this. I'm more than capable of now. Before it was a little difficult for financial restraints, but I'm more than capable of it now, thank God. So I really, really want to provide this. I also don't want to get fake subscribers. That's the problem with me giving out gifts. It's rewards or actual material rewards. You give me your address and I ship it to you, like kind of thing. I'm afraid that I'll get fake subscribers because a lot of YouTubers do that. Like probably 70% of their subscription is either them hanging their tits out or giving out gifts, which is really, really stupid. And I don't like that. And I like my tiny little humble community the way it is. But a tablet is really useful, and a tablet is what we draw with. So for those who don't have the tablet, really it would be the appropriate gift to give them. But we'll see. The challenge has to be big enough and nice enough, and it has to make sense, and encourage students to draw more. But that's just a tiny little thing I wanted to leave in there. But before that, the rewards are going to be they're going to be digital rewards. um, okay, so you might as well read the challenge rules. It's not just that. Can anyone in the comments? What would you say? That's the topic of RPG and medieval stuff. The topics of the sketches is RPG and medieval. Yeah, RPG medieval, exactly. Fantasy, medieval, Lord of the Rings kind of deal. Sorry if I randomly, I know I do this a lot. I've noticed in editing, I just randomly punch the mic. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's get started on today's critiques. I have a couple of pieces here that I wanted to take a look at. Oh yeah, by the way, this is a moth that was in front of my house. Isn't it so cute? I don't know what it is. I posted it on Imager. Maybe someone could enlighten me, but isn't it so cute? It was just outside today. Anywho, let's take a look at what everyone's drawn. Alright, so I wanted to take a look at this piece right here. It's a very, very beautiful piece. The skin tones are great. The rendering is great. You went to the level even of rendering pores, which is a big deal and a very, very late stage. But when we hit this late stage in a painting, when we depend on smaller brushstrokes, the resolution is really low. When we depend on smaller brushstrokes to run the let me see if I can to run the detail, what we forget is where the edge work is. So you don't have edge work here. So there are three main ways to detail. Alright, these are the three main ways. Alright, so way number one, the best way, the one that is the most important, is edge work. Edge. Oh my god. Edge work. Alright. Two is detail. So you actually shrink your brush and draw in some detail. And the third one is contrast. And I leave the third one, they're not really in order. If anyone is the best one, it's edge work. But the third one here is the one we should depend on last. Depend on contrast last for detail. Do not depend on contrast to create detail. So you don't have that here, but this is just a quick warning. Detail itself is shrinking the brush. So shrinking the brush. And then edge work is where you have super clean lines, super clean edges. So it's about not blending. So let me give you a quick lesson on what it means when we have a super clean edge. So when we have this value, alright, so we've got this value, and then we've got this slightly darker value. Can you tell where the one value starts and the other begins without having to zoom out all the way? Let me get an edge brush and show you what happens, how much contrast we really had. Look at that. That is a massive difference where, before with overblending, we didn't have any contrast here. So students, without knowing they have this tool, that they can do this, they go ahead and do something like this, which is terrible. They went too far into the contrast to get that read. And that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give our edges a chance, and that's what it means by giving our edges a chance. By allowing the edge to speak the contrast before diving into some more contrast and borrowing from the lower contrast. Just on the ladder, just a step below or 10 steps below on the ladder. So this is why it's so powerful. This is why I keep this one at the top, because edge work is what we're missing here, and that's why the face feels like it's, even though you shrunk, you jumped straight into detail. You skipped this and you went straight into this. And that's why we have a tiny little, all those tiny little pores and all those tiny little things on the face right now, without ever having gone in and showing where the edge of the eyelid is. So where this little line is. So we didn't have that. We didn't have any edge work for the contrast of the, so let me turn this off and get started on the paint over. But so yeah, the lower eyelid was missing, and then we needed a shadow for this socket here. Even though the light is coming up from this direction down, that means that this is going to cast a shadow here. So darken. Alright, so we need a shadow there, and what edge work means is that when we cast that down, we need to go back in and create a nice shadow for that cast shadow I just created. This edge creates detail. Edges create detail. Edges make it seem like your picture is complete. Edges help complete your painting. Write that back to me. Okay. Another example of where we need some edges, so I'm going to darken layer right here across, just near the hair. The closer the hair gets to the closer the object gets to the object casting it, the closer the shadow. Object A is hair, object B is face. The closer those two are to each other, the sharper the cast shadow is going to be. And then the further away they move, the more blurry the cast shadow is going to be. Okay. So I'm going to show you the before and after we added some edges in, and you'll see this is what's missing. And then, a commoner or a layman is just going to say, a plebeian, a pleb is just going to say to you, all those non-artist scum. I'm joking. They're going to say, oh, it just looks too soft. It looks soft for me. I don't like it. And the reason why they don't know how to explain to you, you need edge work. They don't have that vocabulary. Like they're not part of the art world, so they don't know how to explain it to you. But this is pretty much what they mean when they say it just looks too soft. All right. 1 second, please. All right. So where would we need these next? So we have more edge work needed over here, right across the nose. And again, I'm just going to sharpen this edge. And these edges, there are different kinds of edges needed. So there are two kinds of edges. The first edge is basically, are you going to let me draw, Mr. Pencil? The first one looks like this. Alright, so this is the cube, this is side A. Side B. This edge right here is a 90-degree angle. It's measurable at 90, or even more acute, or a whole cave as well, like a whole cave. So this is an acute angle, like 30 degrees. And then you've got a bit of an obtuse angle, so let's say it's like 110 degrees. Alright, so 110, not 90. But still, we still have this really important fold in all of these different kinds of angles. So there are these areas in the face where we have this. So on the nose, that's exactly what this angle is. It's the outside of an edge. It's this 90-degree, like this just complete perpendicular side to the other side. Another example, or another way we can have edges on the face, is if we have object A in front of object B. So this object and this object don't mix. So that means that this edge and this edge don't mix. So we just have to find where objects stack and where extreme angles are in order to have edges. So can anybody repeat those two methods for me? Yeah, this is the first one I've critiqued. Sorry, just have to quickly blow my nose. Okay. So someone repeat that for me. So we have before and after, and I'm just creating edges here. And this nose shadow right here is caused by one of these edges. Another example of an edge is just across here on this, the cast shadow of the nose. So I'm grabbing this highlight, I'm extending it. Actually, I'll just go to darken, and I'm extending the shadow just like that. And I'm just going to erase away some of the shadow. So sometimes we do have super soft lighting situations. And the reason why we can't always have that is because it's boring. That's just the flat reason why we just can't have it. It's too boring. And it doesn't let some form come through. So one big aspect of the form is whether or not it has 90-degree angles. So if everything is casting a super soft shadow, it feels like everything has fur on it. And that's why it's not very appealing to have, all these soft shadows everywhere. We need some messiness. We need some edge work. We need some variation on, long shadows that are softer versus sharp, short shadows. So all of that stuff is really, really important. And you're missing a lot of these edges here. So don't forget to avoid contrast as much as possible. Really remember that. For the hairline, I feel like your hairline is just a little bit artificial. It feels like she has a wig, and the best way to get rid of that feeling is just to smudge away. And combining this value and this value, so it feels like there's tiny little hairs. We can't draw every tiny little hair, but we have to blend this hairline, and I've covered this many, many times. There are many other reasons why this face doesn't really work. The first reason is that the eyebrow seems to have lifted outside of its orbit and left towards the temple completely. When an object wraps around something that has form, it doesn't do this. It doesn't do this. It does this, right? So that the eyebrow started here, and then it went back down. From the side, you probably would have seen a straight line, but this edge right here makes it feel like it bent down. So what we have to do is tell that eyebrow to come back down this way because it's on the contour. It's on the side of the temple. So it needs to just stop in that section. Alright, some more shadows you probably need are the ones that sit underneath, directly underneath the brow, that move up into the temple. It's kind of just one step darker. And you really have to, after you're done, run a soft brush over everything, because you have to make it feel like all of this stuff is unified under the same skin, which has tiny little hairs on it. Another issue that you have is that the neck feels extremely long, not because it's actually long, this is the collarbone, but because you didn't give us any extra information on the outside, so it made it feel like her neck is super long. So we need to see some shoulders. Okay, just give that a color. Now it's like super haunch shoulders, but it's okay. Just something to just take care of that one part of our visual library that we need to address. Okay, so let's take a look at the before and after and see what we're missing. Oops. Okay, so that edge work really, really allowed us to just read some more real skeleton under her face. Before, it felt like everything was just too soft. There wasn't any real characteristic to the skeleton or presence of the skeleton. So what I do now is I grab this really, really dark shade, go to a new layer, and radially, like, just descend the side of the face into a shadow. Because that whole side of the face is underneath the shadow. Even here, we radially cause that shadow to happen. I'm a Photoshop wizard. This is some basic tools. Once you know them, you can use them. But I know what you guys mean. Photoshop can seem very, very daunting the first time you use it. Okay. So 2 types of edges, folds, and stacking. Yes. Her neck looks like a giraffe. Well, you can just say her neck looks long. You don't have to compare it to an animal. So edges happen when we have to have edges of one object or not, or one object is covering the other. Yes, so edges inside an object with edges in it. Angles, don't forget that word, angles. And edges when we have one object in front of the other, exactly. So one reason why this face doesn't really, do you see what that shadow did? It kind of really made it feel like the hair is blanketing over the face. One thing that we're missing is the gaze. The gaze feels very disconnected. She doesn't feel like she's looking at me. It is much better than anything cross-eyed, but the problem is when we have this kind of gaze, we have to cross the eyes ever so slightly so that she really looks like she's looking into your soul. And that's something you want. When you draw a portrait in portraiture, you want to make it feel like you are your viewer is meeting the portrait. So the gaze is really important. That's pretty much the only reason that justifies this kind of level of, and we have to exaggerate it just a little bit more. So let me show you what happened before, after. The tiniest little change and suddenly she's alive. Suddenly she feels like a real person. So I did the edges where one object is in front of the other, casting shadows. I did the edges of 90-degree angles. So now what I'm going to do is find the edges, the angles inside the object. So I'm going to go back to those eyelids that I started with. New layer. Okay. And what I'm doing right now is making those edges like appear. So there is one edge under the eye, just like that. And there's another one for the lower eyelid. Don't forget the lower eyelid. Everybody forgets the lower eyelid. It's always going to happen. So right along here. And then this one here doesn't just become an edge, it just starts off as a shadow. So I'm being very careful with my brush. I'm using a blocking in brush, but these are the forms that I look out for whenever I draw. So you see, I'm so hesitant on bringing contrast in because it's really just about this edge right now. I'm trying to let the edge do its thing and being very, very careful with my contrast. Careful. Okay. So I'm throwing some more really nice freckles, by the way. You have a great eye for speckle detail, which is really, really, difficult to achieve. Sometimes it's too soon that we have excessive detail, and we just throw off the whole image. It starts to look gritty, like there's noise. And it's just artificial noise, not even nice noise. Okay. So zoom out. See what I need to blend. Always zoom out. Always zoom out. Okay. So for the eyes, they feel just a little bit, here, let me erase this part. They feel just a little, what's the word? I guess symbolic is what I can say. So I duplicated this layer and I'm just going to erase away what I don't need with a soft brush. Basically just softening edges that are trying to contest the eyes. The eyes are the main focal point right now. So nothing should contest that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is tuck the tails of the eyes in, just like this. Okay. So what we've done between the before and the after is we've introduced a lot of edge work, which is a whole other level of physical, a physical aspect of the world. It's just edges everywhere. And if you as an artist don't recognize where these edges happen, you're not going to be able to pull off that successful portrait feeling. Where you actually feel it, it's a painting. You can tell it's a painting, but something about it feels so real. And I don't know if you guys have seen masters do this, but they just paint this really messy ass just canvas, and for some reason it reads like a photograph when you're zoomed away, and it's because they've managed to balance all the core shadows and edges and use all the real physical aspects, the real physical characteristics of the world. And edges and edge work is one massive part of form. We're not transparent, we're opaque, we're not see-through. So we cast some pretty sharp edges, and if you don't have an eye for it, you got to start building it. Build an instinct for where edges happen. So you can see them in your reference, you can see them in in everything that you do. So I'm trying to show that the side, so this is Portrait Studio I'm opening up now. And what I'm doing is I'm going to try to show you that this shadow right here, so let me bring her glabella depth. So I'm bringing that part of her forehead down as happens, you know, with faces. And when it goes down like that, what we do is we can't have the value here be anything close to this value. So we have to, before what you did with yours is that you had this nose transfer straight up into the forehead, which is impossible because look, light, dark, light. So we need that little area right here. We need to have a shadow here because that's the depth right here, this whole area. So height, valley, height. So before it was very little of that. This value almost traveled all the way up, and if that happens, the face looks like this from the side. Where's the nose bridge? Nose height, no, nose bridge depth, just like that. It looks like there is like a complete connection in here. In the new version, I think there's going to be a forehead width, forehead depth. So it's going to look like that. And that's when we have this value, almost no valley here. So we have light, light, slight dark, and then light again too soon. But when we bring everything back to where it was before, we have that depth again, and we look from the side, and there it is again, right here. So that's what I'm trying to show you, is that if she had all this light travel this whole direction, just like that, like we always had this light, it's not going to look right. It's going to look like the nose and the forehead are connected. Another thing that's missing are the shadows of the upper eyelid on the rest of the eye. So a lot of this stuff can be taken, you know, you don't have to draw a fully colored piece in order to fix these mistakes that you have. I mean, you can write them down and not forget them for the next time you draw, but why not really solidify them with like a month dedicated for portraits, doing 14-day challenges and doing different studies, studying diagrams of the eye. Study the eye and all the formations and the forms of the face with diagrams. Kind of just threw some makeup, but before, after, before, after. That's the shadow of the upper eyelid, the lashes and the upper eyelid itself, and that whole makeup thing that she's got going on also causes an excess in that area. So before, after, before, after. That gaze is very important. Do you see what happened with the eyebrows, how they were completely outside? And we're getting much closer. The more we do this, the closer and closer we get to a realistic read. Some of the final things that I want to show you guys is for this critique anyway, is this corner of the lip right here. It needs to be more of a fold or a gradual descent. Just like that. And this outline on the lip is a remnant of your dependence on the symbols and the lines. So you need to blend this out. Don't outline lips, sculpt them. Please write that back to me. So I'm trying to combine the lips with the skin around it. Right, so I'm borrowing some color right up from the outside, and then with a very, very low opacity soft brush, I'm just moving it down. And this is where we might need some contrast just on the lower lip, just like that. So I'm just using a dodge tool. I'm going to turn protect tones on because I don't want any new values. Just like that. And I'm trying to make it feel like the body is like, the lips are part of the body. The body of the lip is combined with the skin around it. Sculpt lips, yeah. Don't outline lips, sculpt them. This lower part, so the light is coming from top down, from the top right, our right down. That means that this part of the eyeball is darker. So this is not me making her look old. This is just her base anatomy. It doesn't matter what age you are, your eyes can blink. And if your eyes can blink, they have extra skin under there. Okay. Another way to make eyes look more realistic is to bring some of the white of the eye, especially for colored eyes, and then just leave it on the lower part right here. This is because water wells up down here. On the lower part of the eye, right above the water line, there's always water there. It gets pulled down by gravity. So to make the eyes feel more realistic, we have to diffuse. If you put your hand under water, your skin gets lighter because it's just the colors don't work the same way, and contrast is canceled out. So that extra line you had down here was really limiting the eye, but let me show you before I did that. Okay, so before that and after. The eyes feel alive, like there's water in there. I'm going to actually just blend this out, make it a little bit of a softer shadow. Okay. Alright, so one final thing I would do is I would get a darken layer, grab the darkest tone you have already, and then just completely throw it everywhere on the side that doesn't get any light. So like a fog of shadow. And what that does, it just makes it feel like this is a local shadowed area. So it doesn't feel as light on that side. And we only erase away where there are areas of relief. Another thing you're missing is the specular of the skin, the shine of the skin. So this happens because, all those excessive little details you added on. So let me see if I can do this with a dodge tool. Color dodge on a really, really pale, like white or gray. That way I don't bring in any new colors. But that's nice. Okay, perfect. And then I go up and find oily areas in the face, and that's where I'm going to cause that. My opacity should be like a 2. Anywhere where there is oil, water, anything that is actually wet on the face needs this extra little bit of shine. Cupid's bow has water on it, the nose does. As does the chin. So that's really, really required. I have to erase away at the chin, make it more of a sharp shape. Sponge, desaturate. And I'm just going to desaturate these because they're not really supposed to be like a pink. Oops. They're supposed to be like a white. So I'm going to bring whiteness into any area here that has that color. Use a corrective color here. And then of course we need to spike the values in the eyes. And the waterline. And again, I'm just desaturating. The worst thing about Dodge Tool is that it brings in all these new values. It's so annoying. Why can't it just like illuminate with all of that without all of that extra mess? So it's not so much that we have that tearful look, it's that we have a hydration, like a feeling that it's hydrated, it's not flat. What I like to do is grab the color right here on the cheekbone or on the forehead and connect them over the eyebrow. Oops. Oh, no. I don't dissolve. Just right here. And I create that on switch feeling. Just like that. And that just, again, makes it feel like that eyebrow is under some light and it's oily in that area. And it has to be oily. If you think oiliness is gross and you don't include it in your paintings, at that point you're just making your painting suffer. You have to make it feel like you're drawing something that can breathe. So before, after, before, after. And you see we're leaving our shadows for the very, very end. So what I'm going to do is get a color layer. And I pretty much, sorry, one second please. I pretty much just grab the skin tone value here, and I uh, move the color slider down towards the reds to something a little bit more purple. So see, this is purple, but I haven't even touched purples yet. It's just red has purple in it and blue in it. And on the color layer, low opacity, soft brush, I'm going to just throw that over all the shadows. And then after this, I'm going to desaturate even more. Because the skin was a little bit too, considering that she's pale, it was just a little bit too hydrated and too red, not hydrated, saturated near the shadows. And we want to get rid of that. We want to keep them cool. So they were very orange before this. And then using sponge tool on desaturate, I'm just going to desaturate the area under the skin. Okay. So before, after, more purples are present. The skin just feels more alive. Especially the eyes, I think. And it's because of these sharp edges we introduced, these beautiful edges here, that make all the difference. So look out for where they happen. I'm sorry that I had to paint over all of the form you had, because you had some, you know, like little gradients, and you had the freckles and the stuff. But before, like, I'm sure you have access to that layer, so just you know, turn that layer off and just focus on all your edge work that you need. I'm going to get that pink on the lips and toss some of it on the cheeks, because that's where we can have some redness. And I'm also going to use that same pink on the waterline. Yeah. Any questions? Sorry, I'm just... Aren't girls put makeup on these spots to make them dull? You mean like make them mattified? No, not really. We put shine on cheekbones, on eyes. We just fill sparkles all over the eyes and cheekbones and mouth. But everything else, like the nose, yeah, we want that mattified, but it looks really cakey if it's too mattified. You have to have some moisture to it. What I want to try to do is slide this. So you were actually at a pretty good spot for the skin, but I feel like it should be just a little bit more pink. Just to make, you had a lot of yellows. So before, after. She's very pale. Paler skin has a more... Well, that's why I need to erase away and get the yellows back. Basically, you can do it when you with your layers, because I'm sure you have the layers. Slide the base tone over and get a new layer and just erase away the lower one. Actually, I could just do it right here. What the hell am I saying? Alright, so I'm moving it over to the pinks. I'm going to make it a -3. And then I'm going to erase away where I want yellows back, which is basically all the highlights. This entire highlighted half. Anywhere else. So the skin feels a little bit more alive. So any questions about this portrait? Girls do like to be shiny nowadays. Yeah. Maybe she eats a lot of carrots. You're so talented. How did you discover this? I never realized that making the face shiny could improve this much the drawing. Oh, absolutely. It's not me discovering it. It's always been there, because that's our anatomy. Our skin isn't just going to be dry. Our skin is at its best when it's hydrated and oily and happy. So in order to draw something realistic, we have to remember, you know, it's not just about the skin being beige. That's not where it stops. It goes on and on. What's the hydration level? What are the pigmentations? How bloody is this face? How see-through is this skin? What's the shade of this skin? Is she darker? Is she tanned? Was she once like really light and then she tanned? Was she born tan? Is she darker skin? Is there makeup? There's so many variables that change skin to make it look more realistic. This is just scratching the surface. But that's why you have to work with references, because it keeps you as close as possible to the real instances where these things happen in the real world. Okay, so this person was saying that their image looks dull. The biggest problem you have right now is going into color too soon, my friend. You need to take a step back, and work in grayscale. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, how to match your colors. Your colors right now are coming out of a really muddy environment. Your values are way too dark. You have too much contrast. You've depended on contrast to give you detail. You have edge work, but it's just misplaced at this time, and you have some form issues. So let's go into this portrait. The forehead is just protruding way too much. It's an entire, like, it feels like the head belongs to a completely different face. You have a good 3/4 view going on, but I think the head size just threw you off. Great 3/4 view on the eyes as well, but you need to tuck some stuff away. Some stuff in the rotation process becomes invisible. Don't force into visibility the hidden side of a 3/4 view. Please write that back to me. And if this is supposed to be a woman, she looks extremely masculine. And that's because the size of the nose. I mean, you can keep her looking just like this, that's fine. But if you were going for that pinup, which is usually where these things go in that direction, you want to, channel in some of that beauty triangle and that golden ratio. You also have the whites of the eyes completely hidden, but so before, after, it was kind of like that really large deformed head, and we're just tucking it back to match the body. The next thing that makes her look extremely masculine is this hairline. It's a very, very masculine hairline. It feels like, that receding hairline pattern. So again, I'm just going to give the forehead less of a, bulbous shape. And then I'm going to blend away, just like I did with the previous portrait that I just critiqued. This here is exactly the same thing. I'm blending away at the hairline to make it feel more natural. And now the ear feels a little bit misplaced because the head before was so large. Okay. So one thing I would do to make her look more alive is I would show a little bit more of the eyelid. So just that light shining down on her face. So let me open up Portrait Studio real quick. We don't have eyelid movement yet. We will, God willing. But like if I could try to get the angle right at least. If you guys stay till the end, I'll show you my haircut. Okay. So zoom out. You're seeing just a little bit more. And I think that's what you're missing. You said that it felt a little flat or it felt uninteresting. I'm not sure what the word you used was. But it just felt dead. And I think when we lower the eyelid, it feel more like a, less open. So it feels like less of a, like a mannequin that has only one gesture in the eye versus, a full breathing thing that can blink, and it just managed to blink just a little bit to create that imperfect expression. And again, we're missing edges around the eyes. Just like that. That's it. Just leave that big block there. Leave it there. Have the courage to just leave that big ass block right there. Big ass block. I don't know why you guys listen to me, man. I swear so much. Okay. And I'm going to bring some more of that water into the water line. And then of course I'm going to just try to make the white of the eye a little bit more visible so she's more human, and again, less of that dead feeling you were talking about. Okay. So we'll show you the before and after in a quick second, but let me just blend away. So when we do have this edge, we can blend away the sides that aren't supposed to, be there. So this area here can blend away because it's not an edge, we're seeing it head on. And same as this. And then there's that edge of the cheekbone, so this whole forehead is like one big, this whole temple area is just one big line, or limit that the light can't come across. And then we've got like the potential for some really beautiful cast shadows. Sometimes I feel like I can't move fast enough across Photoshop. Like I feel like I just need to just channel like I don't know, just at light speed. Like everything's moving too slowly because I'm so excited. I want to show you guys the change that, all these little layers I have to go through and toggle this back and forth. I just feel like it's so slow. But in your eyes, I'm probably moving at light speed, but it's still not fast enough for me. Okay. No. If you're gonna do it, just do it all the way. Don't be a pussy. Let's duplicate layer, merge down, and from this distance, I want to get like a really nice cast shadow. Something really sharp. And it's probably going to end just around here. Like it's probably going to end there. And then the nose will continue and do its own little cube thing. And I'm going to just blend these two together in a second because the side of the nose should not be as dark, anywhere as dark as. So you see, I make new layers and I just erase away and then I blend them all together again. So that whole excessive feeling of that it wasn't feeling alive, it's because you weren't really drawing anything too familiar. We wanted a little bit more familiarity. And these little values here, they're going to help you get that familiarity back. Okay. So right after the liquefy, I'll show you the changes. So before liquefy, after liquefy, and then just that blinked eye will feel just a little bit more realistic. If you wanted her eye to feel even larger, like more open, you can also do that. And I think what the problem is that you don't really have much of the forehead, like much of the eyebrow and the forehead and the brow bone happening. So a lot of the expression is invested in the eyebrow, and you kind of had a missing eyebrow because you were trying to go for that lit eyebrow that was in the that was caught by the light. But you have to draw the brow bone first. So try to draw the brow bone before you draw the eyebrow in. It'll always help you draw a better eyebrow. Write that back to me. Draw the brow bone before you draw the eyebrow. Paint Istebrak challenge. No. Okay. So I need to make this whole area here actually lighten to make it all one value. And then after that, you can, bring in a textured brush or something, grab that super contrast, and then make it so that some of the eyebrows caught some of the light, some of the eyebrow hairs. You have to be very careful with, how much detail you put in this area because it'll look too detailed way too soon, and be very careful with that. Very picky. Remember, always zoom out and test it and see if it worked or not. Maybe just the top parts of the brow caught the light. And this here, this fuzziness, This is an example where we need a sharp edge, because when we bring that sharp edge in, I swear to you, you will have this like massive boost in the detail. This nose cannot be this fuzzy. It has to be super sharp against whatever's behind it. I don't know if you had the same layer. I'm not sure if these are on different layers, but if they are, just erase away. All of this cannot be allowed to be this fuzzy. It needs to be super sharp. Because this alone, just doing this makes you get detail. And I'll show you in a sec what it did. Now I'm zoomed in. It's just really separated the background from your character. I'll erase away. And then of course, because there's this crazy light shooting in from the top, and it's just extreme contrast, we have to spike the contrast as it happens here. So the cheekbones, the forehead, they just get a lot of light on them, because that's the situation that you've drawn, the light source environment. The nose should get a lot of light because it's directly exposed. And just like I showed you before, unless you want the nose to connect to the forehead, you need to have that shadow in there. This shadow needs to be in there, just like that. So this is the exact situation of the light source right now. This, and then, so that's the camera angle, and then this is the light source. No. Actually, let me try to do it this way. Perfectly symmetrical, and they've got ambience all the way up. The character's skin is pretty dark, and it's a dark room. So you've got, damn it, I want it fixed. I have to go into the, okay. In the new version, of course, you'll be able to make it fixed. So this is this, and then we've got like extreme cheekbones, so the cheek fat is all the way down. So as you can see, we have like a lot of light on the, if we raise the contrast up, the nose is like one of the brightest areas. Right? And then if we have an even stronger, so your face was a bit masculine, so that glabella was a really, really low. And that forehead depth was just really strong. Even if it came on an angle, even if it was asymmetrical, that nose would stay bright. So would the cheekbones. And this shadow would not be similar to this one. So me raising that, I kind of just gave her an expression. I'll take care of that in a sec. See that line right here, this S shape, it needs to just be created, and that cheekbone moves up into the rest of the face, and then the lower shadow of the cheekbone. There's so many variables that needs to be taken care of, before you go in with detail. Filter, liquefy. Trying to make the face look a little more concentrated. And you probably want to extend this lower eyelid just like that, just a little. It's not fully hidden yet, it's not a side view. You probably want some lashes, but if the lashes already caught some light as well, so they might be a little bit lighter. But because they're missing, she feels sick. She looks like she's sick because we don't have lashes here. So if you wanted to include darker lashes, it would give that face a little bit more familiarity. But that no eyebrow look is really, really strong kind of villain look. So I hope all of these things helped you get like a more realistic read or a more realistic eye. But stay away from colors and try to work inside values that you can use. Values that you can use on skin, values that actually make sense. There's so much more that left to, to do on this face, but this is I guess a good head start on where to start when it comes to the rest of the face. Always try to establish your core shadows first. So you have a lot of practice left on just basic core shadows, basic anatomy. So this is what I mean, don't try masterpieces before you've invested like a decent amount of time, at least like a week, just 1 week of your artistic life to portraits before you try to do a full masterpiece, because it's going to fail. And what's going to happen is that it's just going to discourage you. So why attempt something that you know you need a little bit more practice in? It's like going for a race or a marathon and you haven't been doing any training. So just do a little bit of training before you put yourself to the test. And then try it again. And you'll see there's massive improvement, noticeable improvement. You don't have to wait a year of your life before you get a read in your work. Okay. So, she looks like that evil lady from Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves. Oh, yeah, that lady. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I really like Constantine. So I did get this piece as well, so let me just flatten the image. Stay away from color for a while, and stay close to your grayscales. So I did take a look at this. This is like you're really forcing it. I think you should do material studies to make this read. So there are some specific areas here that need shine. So like this area, let me get my red or blue, I'll read better. So this area and this area, these are all the height. So all of the highlights should travel on these roots. And then you've got the thigh, just the top of the thigh should have highlight. This all should be hidden in shadow. The pose is very, very symmetrical and boring. I'm going to say the word boring because that's what symmetrical can do. Symmetrical can be very boring. Symmetrical can be very divine and beautiful if you want to try to push that feeling. But I feel like she's just like this assassin type of rogue. She doesn't really feel like anything holy. If you were drawing like an angel or something, then yeah, you should definitely go for symmetrical. But when you're doing the opposite, you go for asymmetry. It's in all the classical art, all of the Renaissance art. Whenever Satan is being drawn, he's just drawn with this asymmetry and this rogue nature to him. So this is what we're pulling from when we're drawing these characters here that have this, this demonic nature around them, or this demonic theme behind them. So even if she's not demonic, you're still using colors, dark theme. It's a dark themed image. So go for a more asymmetrical. You can still keep the sexy pinup tit thing kind of going on, but we need to see something a little bit more asymmetrical. Maybe more of a less basic, less action figure way of holding the knife. Something a little bit more, like she's just holding the knife this way, and then her hand is like this way, and like something a little bit more crazy like that. Maybe holding the knife this way, and then we have like some crazy flying cloth. And then we have like an asymmetrical kind of setup for the body. So I'm using my mouse. When I put my pen away, I hate picking it back up. And then we've got like some light coming from behind her to show off her silhouette. And then we've got a cast shadow on her eye. I mean, these are all ways to make this really pop. So I recommend all of that. Okay, so final recap. The challenge is now up. To download your resource pack, just go to istebrak.com and go to the community tab right here. And download your Fantasy Adventure Fellowship. To post it, simply go to Google Community. Go to YouTube as well if you didn't catch the first part of the session today. So go to YouTube. I'll be uploading my recording of today's lesson here. And this community tab is where we post it. You're supposed to post it under theme submissions. So this is the previous Antara is really on it. The previous submissions here for the challenge from before. Facebook is where you can go to get your paint overs back. If you want your copy that I painted over today, go there. Twitter is where I have a lot of my announcements made. And then Instagram is just, where I post my sketches if you want to stay close to my personal sketches and whatnot. So that's it for today. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys around. Bye bye.